The Shrine of Our Lady of Martyrs honors Saints Isaac Jogues, Rene Goupil, and Jean de Lande. It's a large shrine. The most important sites can all be seen in one day, maybe 8 hours or so. However, spending 2 full days here will allow you to move more slowly and more thoroughly through all of the sites. For example, both museums instead of just one, or the Ravine Walk and the Stations of the Cross. Father Jogues was a French Jesuit priest sent to the French territory of North America as a missionary to convert the Native Americans living here. Rene Goupil was a lay laborer who accompanied Father Jogues. He took religious vows shortly before he was killed. He was the very first North American martyr. Jean de Lande became Father Jogues' companion after Brother Goupil died. He was martyred hours after Father Jogues was martyred. All 3 lived and died on the land that now makes up the shrine. About 10 years after they died, St. Kateri Tekakwitha was born in this very same village. These saints lived in the first half of the 1600s, so the shrine lands and the lives and deaths of these saints make up some of the oldest Roman Catholic history in North America. The Shrine of Our Lady of Martyrs is located in the Mohawk Valley region of upstate New York. The shrine welcomes everyone, individuals, small families, and large groups of pilgrims. If you're traveling as a large group, it is best to call ahead to make arrangements for Mass, the Sacrament of Reconciliation, and Adoration, 3 musts for a pilgrimage. You will also want to place orders for food using the picnic pavilion, purchasing large quantities of an item from the gift shop, and so on. Fultonville and nearby Auriesville are very small towns, and there are no hotels there. You'll need to look for accommodations for large groups in Johnstown or Amsterdam. Small groups or families might want to stay in the retreat house at the National Shrine of Kateri Tekakwitha, only 4 miles away. Our family did that, and although the retreat house had everything we needed and was clean, it reminded us of how badly these sites need our donations. Peruse the shrine's website. Although you can get brochures and maps of grounds at the visitor center, to be well prepared you can view them first on the website. Note that the shrine also provides checklists for scavenger hunt type experiences for anyone, but are especially good for school or confirmation groups. The shrine is situated on top of the hill that the Native Americans chose for tactical purposes, the same hill Father Jogues and Monsieur de Lande had to run up to go through the gauntlet. At the entrance to the shrine, you will be greeted by statues of the martyrs. Coming up the driveway at the top of the hill and to your right is the visitor center. Straight ahead is the entrance to the ravine, and to the left is the area where the village of Auriesville was located and where most of the shrine's sites are located. We'll go over many of these now. When we traveled to the shrine, we went as a small family of 7 people in mid-August. The weather was sunny and warm, but not hot. It was perfect for touring the grounds and its buildings. We were the only visiting family there, so we self-guided ourselves throughout. If you are pilgrims, the first and foremost purpose of your visit is to worship God. At this shrine, you can attend Mass at the Kateri Chapel during the week or the Coliseum on weekends. Let's start this virtual pilgrimage at the Coliseum. This gigantic church was built in 1930. It's surrounded by gardens and lawn, but this lawn is different because it's where the Indian village Auriesville was built and where 2 saints were tortured. The panoramic view of the Mohawk Valley and river is vast. Stop and take a look before entering the church. It's obvious why this church is called the Coliseum. It was one of the first circular churches in the U.S., and this shape on this ground calls to mind the Roman martyrs who were also tortured and died for their faith. Weekend and Holy Day Masses are celebrated in this church. Although if your large group calls ahead, you might be able to arrange a weekday Mass here. Enter by using one of the 72 doors, each one representing the 72 disciples our Lord sent out to share the gospel. Looking up, you will see a tiered ceiling. The 3 layers suggest the Holy Trinity. There are 12 main seating areas separated by 12 main aisles connecting the outside doors to the sanctuary, each symbolizing the 12 apostles. The Colosseum seats 6,500 pilgrims, and there is standing room for 3,500 more. You can see the name of Jesus carved on the pillars that hold up the ceiling. This reminds us of the sculpture outside of St. Isaac Jogues, who carved Jesus' name into trees in the forest here. There are 4 altars arranged back to back in a circular form, each one decorated with artwork about each of the 4 saints honored here: Rene Goupil, Isaac Jogues, Jean de Lande, and Kateri Tekakwitha. Behind the altars, creating the reredos, stand vertical logs with pointed ends. This signifies the palisades or stockade that surrounded Asurnenon. St. Kateri Tekakwitha was born in the Asurnenon village about 10 years after Saints Isaac Jogues and Jean de Lande were killed, so she is also honored at the shrine of Our Lady of Martyrs. The chapel in her honor was built in 1894 and renovated in 2007. Her chapel is open for daily Mass and the Sacrament of Reconciliation. Remember, going to confession and receiving the Eucharist are 2 of the requirements for pilgrims who desire to receive a plenary indulgence. The other requirement is that the pilgrim prays for the intentions of the Pope, which can be found in several media outlets. For example, you can find them by visiting the EWTN or Vatican News websites. The 1885 chapel is the original chapel at the shrine. It contained only the altar, and the congregation would gather outside. Nowadays, it's a prayer chapel, quiet and filled with candles. Reliquaries are kept in the Colosseum and in the Kateri Chapel. Believers may take a holy card, a rosary, a piece of religious jewelry, or any other personal item and gently touch it to the relic. This blesses the object, so the object becomes a sacramental and should then be treated with respect. The grounds of the shrine are vast, covering acres. These woods, gardens, and lawns are different because this is where the Indian village Asurnenon was built, and where 3 saints were tortured and killed. Reflect on this as you take in the panoramic view of the Mohawk Valley and River. Although some places are accessible only by car, during your pilgrimage you will move mostly on foot. Walking enhances your pilgrimage. Going slowly allows you to participate in the many self-directed outdoor devotions at your own pace. There are many outdoor statues for meditation and contemplation. You're sure to find your favorite. There are also several options for communal prayer, such as the Stations of the Cross, the Rosary, and the 7 Sorrows of Mary. If you have forgotten your prayer materials, booklets are available for sale in the gift shop inside the Visitor Center. Prior to making our pilgrimage to the National Shrine of Our Lady of Martyrs, we prepared by reading the lives of these saints. However, because their stories are so action-packed and so many people are involved, we had a few "wait a minute, where are we?" moments when we set foot on the immense grounds. Even with all of our preparation, we needed a little refresher course and orientation. We were happy that our first stop was the Saints of Auriesville Museum. We were able to watch DVDs in the museum. Then the museum staff was happy to answer any of our questions, even coming over to different displays when we beckoned, so that they could answer our questions. I strongly suggest that you visit at least one of the museums before you walk the property, so that you are able to find the many outdoor archaeological sites. Several sites are not marked in an obvious way. For example, the village itself just looks like a huge lawn now if you don't know to look for the Our Lady of Sorrows Way. Also, you will be able to hold in your imagination the layout of the village and how cramped it really was after seeing a model of it. The walk in the ravine will also feel more like a purposeful journey rather than like a casual hike in the woods if you take your bearings first by preparing, reading the story of Saints Rene Goupil and Saint Jogues, receiving an orientation at the museum, and reading your shrine map. Many of the statues are hidden down unmarked paths, so they are easy to miss. You'll know about the crosses nailed to the trees. You'll be ready to stop and pause at the creek in a more meaningful way. You also want to be able to identify the statues when you see them. Keep in mind the end of the story. All this acreage is a reliquary because we do not know where the bones of the three saints are. The peace and solitude and beauty of the forest contrasts with the violent historical experiences that took place here. Because of the natural condition of the path, most of this part of the pilgrimage is probably best for pilgrims who can walk well by themselves. You may need to stop at the visitor center and gift shop both before and after your pilgrimage. You'll find many materials to enhance your pilgrimage here: maps to help you find your way, booklets to help you pray, and medals and religious jewelry that you have blessed with the relics. Afterwards, you will probably want to express your gratitude for the maintenance of these grounds. All shrines, no matter how big or small, depend on your donations, and you can make yours here. We are a Catholic homeschooling family. When our family made the pilgrimage here, my children were studying early American history, the discovery and exploration of the continent. So it made sense to us to add on some other activities while we were in the area. It would be a dream to follow Father Isaac Jogues' full route. That was out of the question for us at this point. For now, it was realistic to add on a pilgrimage to the local National Kateri Shrine, only 4 miles away. Because my son in particular was very interested in the Native Americans in this area, we drove the entire region that was the Iroquois territory and discovered Niagara Falls, only 4 hours from Auriesville. While at the shrine, it would have been possible to also make a day trip to Albany or Fort Orange, where St. Isaac Jogues escaped to when he was enslaved, or to the Martyrs Shrine in Ontario, Canada, when we were in Niagara Falls, where the other 5 North American martyrs are honored. St. Kateri Tekakwitha was born in Ossernenon 10 years after St. Isaac Jogues and St. Jean de Lande were killed there. Her family moved to a different Indian village just 4 miles away when she was young. This is where the National Shrine to her is located today. You can learn more about St. Kateri and her shrine by watching our YouTube videos called Saint Study, St. Kateri Tekakwitha, and Virtual Pilgrimage, the National Shrine of St. Kateri Tekakwitha. This shrine is completely separate from the shrine for the North American Martyrs, and it is much less developed. It also depends on your donations to maintain itself. This shrine is much smaller than the one for St. Isaac Jogues, Rene Goupil, and Jean de Lande. The buildings are much closer together, and the walk to get to the archaeological sites isn't as far. It can be seen in one day, maybe in about 6 hours or so. As mentioned earlier, you will get more out of the pilgrimage and you will maintain the proper attitude during your pilgrimage if you prepare beforehand. This is the book that the adults in my family read prior to the pilgrimage. Our 5th grader read this book on her own, and I read it together with my 3rd grader. They loved the exciting presentation of the story. I was impressed with how accurate the story is. It's not watered down, and Lomask is able to communicate the brutality of the torture without getting into the gruesome details. Some teens and adults may find this book easier to tackle than the Talbot book. Whether you're reading a book or discussing these people with others, you're going to want to be able to pronounce their names correctly. We spent some time prior to the pilgrimage while we were reading the books trying to figure out the real ways to pronounce these foreign language names. It's important to stay true to historical facts. My homeschooled children did some research into the various Native American cultures that lived in the area and that these saints interacted with. They learned about the real names of each nation and what the names mean, the geographical locations of each nation, the language each spoke, whether they were nomadic or settled, what their housing was like, and yes, we learned that those teepees that you see with St. Kateri Tekakwitha are accurate. Foods they ate and how they obtained them, tools they used including weapons, clothing, and arts and crafts. This really helped them to maintain a positive opinion of these ancient peoples and to avoid stereotypes and prejudice, helping my kids to understand that everyone is a child of God. Brother Rene Goupil accompanied Jesuit priests to New France as a lay missionary, but he professed religious vows as a Jesuit lay brother while in North America. He was killed after being hit on the head several times with a tomahawk because he taught Native American children the sign of the cross. He was the first North American martyr. Father Isaac Jogues is often separated out from the other 7 martyrs. For example, you may hear someone say Father Jogues and his companions, or St. Isaac Jogues and the North American Martyrs. This is probably because he suffered for a longer period of time in a more extreme way. He was martyred by tomahawk and was beheaded after suffering many years as a slave and after being tortured several times. Monsieur Jean de Lande guarded, protected, and guided Jesuit priests through the North American wilderness. He was martyred with a tomahawk and beheaded after trying to leave a longhouse to rescue St. Isaac Jogues' body and bury it. You can hear the complete story and learn more about these saints if you listen to our video called Saint Study, the North American Martyrs. St. Kateri Tekakwitha was born in the same village 10 years after St. Isaac Jogues and St. Jean de Lande were killed. As a small child, her family moved to a different Indian village just 4 miles away, where the national shrine to her is located today. St. Kateri was not martyred, but she was verbally abused most of her life because of her Christian beliefs, and she actually had to escape into Canada because her life was in danger. You can learn more about St. Kateri and her shrine by watching our YouTube videos called Saint Study, St. Kateri Tekakwitha, and Virtual Pilgrimage, the National Shrine of St. Kateri Tekakwitha. This particular mission, where Saints Isaac Jogues, Jean de Lande, and Rene Goupil was destroyed in 1684.